All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at the Teaching Kitchen at Gibbs Cancer Center at Pelham in Greer, South Carolina. My name is Kerri Stewart. I'm the coordinator of culinary medicine here. I'm also a registered dietitian, and this month it is a great month to talk about all of the color and incorporation of local fresh vegetables, especially here in the state of South Carolina. And so to do that, we have Wendy Cox here, who is a nurse practitioner for our Center for Pediatrics. And Wendy and I have had multiple conversations over the years just about how tough it can be to get kids to step into the kitchen space, but also the space of trying different fruits and vegetables and making sure that they're really getting enough in their diet. So Wendy has been seeing kids for years and has all sorts of tips. She's also an avid gardener and cook. And so we're really excited to have you here, Wendy. And thank you for sharing your knowledge on, what did we say, 13 different vegetables I think we already
Yes.
have in here.
Mhm.
So I'm going to let Wendy take it away. And as always, feel free to type your questions and comments in to the back there, and I'll address them with Wendy. But we have a full hour of all sorts of tips and tricks for you. So go ahead and take it
Okay.
away. Thank you.
So today we're going to talk about the importance of plant-based foods. And it's not just about, as your grandma always said, eat your vegetables, they're healthy. And people think, okay, they're pretty good for you. And it helps prevent some diseases in some obscure way. I'm not sure how, but there's really a lot of growing evidence that uh, vegetables in particular play a role in the not just the prevention of disease, but a lot of treatment of things. And since I work with kids, I see a lot of ways that children are missing vegetables, and it correlates strongly with lots of disease processes that we see. And there's lots of education and information out there in the research fields that show that it has a help with different mental disorders, anything from ADHD to autism, depression, anxiety, seizures, eczema treatment, acne, just
Mm,
because of relationship with the microbiome. And other autoimmune diseases it has a role in treatment. Any kind of dysbiosis, we know that our intestinal system, which houses all our little garden of good microbes that help make neurotransmitters, is very much affected by what we eat and what goes into our intestinal tract.
mhm,
And so today we want to focus on the fact that we know a lot of kids aren't eating any vegetables at all. They'll say sometimes parents, well, they will eat. Okay, are they offered those vegetables? And often they
mm,
aren't. And so we want to look at some of the reasons why that's not happening and what we can do about it. Sometimes people have grown up and their family really hasn't cooked. They maybe bought some prepackaged foods or did most of their restaurant eating and then eating the leftovers instead of actually knowing how to process and um, prepare their food. So we're going to talk about that today, along with the subject of how to get kids to eat vegetables and enjoy them. And part of that process is helping them learn what vegetables do in their body too, and that's motivating. So today, I have all this variety of vegetables, some of which I even purchased at local farmers markets. And I wanted to show a way that parents can bring a group of vegetables together on the weekend, say, or a time of week that you purchase them all together and then bring them home and process them and then make them easy for retrieval for making lunches or even your dinner. You have things available, and it's very simple, but it helps to have a little bit of organization and method. So first of all, I'm going to show, we already had pre prepared some sweet potatoes and some beets, and we have them cut into little pieces this size. Some of them we left the peeling on because it has certain nutritional benefits as well. And some of them we peeled. Sometimes people have a preference not to have any peeling, but some peeling does provide different nutritional benefit. So we have them in the oven. And so partway through, we can bring them out and show you.
Mhm.
So in other words, we have a beet here, and I'm going to put my little gloves on here and show just a little bit about how to prepare a beet from start to finish. And when we talk about preparing vegetables, want to think that there's not just the vegetable itself and one way to cook it. There's so many ways that we can prepare it. Not just steamed on the stove either, but they can be grilled. And I'm just going to cut this beet off here, and I'm going to just see which I prefer, if I want to peel it or if I'm going to think I'm going to just trim this off just to show. Set it flat here. And some of them can be fermented with a lot of research going on about the microbiome. There is a lot of recipes out there for good fermenting of vegetables, and you can even do things like zucchini or beets, or not just the traditional cabbage or kimchi or sauerkraut. But then those, once you've made them, then they can be incorporated into your other salads as a topping, or they can be used as a layer in a sandwich or a wrap, some other thing that you wish to use.
So we actually have had another guest, our manager of sports medicine, Matt Leiden, is a home fermenter. So we can link everyone to Matt's video about fermentation as well. Can you explain what the microbiome is for us, Wendy?
Yes. So we have good bacteria and bad bacteria and other microbes such as fungi and yeast and different things like that. And they live in our gut, and they facilitate transport of nutrients that are specific for example, making our neurotransmitters. So we are familiar with that if you understand autism or you understand ADHD, or even in the adult world with Alzheimer's, different things like that. And we know that they have a role in preventing and protecting against inflammation. So that's where they come in and are helpful in autoimmune diseases.
Yeah.
So different antibiotics or other medicines that we are on sometimes displace those, or steroids. And so we have to constantly be replenishing it. And it's not just about taking a probiotic. Vegetables in particular have a resistant starch, and that resistant starch, or starches, because there's varieties of them, feed different groups of bacteria, and they help even with producing chemicals that help or appetite suppressants, for example.
Amazing. Yeah.
And your neurotransmitter function.
Yeah. So I think the other interesting thing is a lot more research is coming out now about the importance in diversity of plant foods. So it's, as you mentioned, it's not necessarily about the probiotic pill even, but we can increase the different types of good bacteria in our guts just by eating different types of plant foods, which have different types of fiber. So you can see our rainbow up here already that we are working on. And you'll hear us talk about that a lot through it. So it's not just the color, but different color usually means different nutrients as well. And so, excuse me. There's a lot of research about the probiotic capsules and things like that, but these foods are a lot cheaper than a bottle full of pills anyway.
Right. And the vegetables and nuts in particular have prebiotics. And so prebiotics and postbiotics are things that provide food for the probiotics. Because if you think about it, you have these little garden flora in your gut. So you're trying to grow them. And so they need to be fed every day. So if you're not eating these and you're just eating, say, macaroni and cheese, you're not going to be getting your...
Oh, this was a perfect time for me to be up here. Our oven is going off, so I am going to take out our roasted veggies while Wendy continues, and I'm just going to flip those around and then put them back in the oven for a little while.
And I was just going to mention, I did cut this off of the beet, And when you buy beets at the farmers markets, often
Mm-hmm.
they'll still have the greens on them. And so this is its own vegetable in its own right with its own nutrients, and you can cook it just like spinach or other greens. And greens are some of the most nutritious of all the vegetables. Move it
Yeah.
over here. Are you going to bring it right here?
What's that?
To open to
Yeah, I'm going to open it. I was just looking for a
Okay.
spatula, but I didn't have one,
Okay.
so we will.
All right. And then we also, of course, have our little trusty compost pile too, because even our garden has a
Yes.
microbiome. So
Yeah.
we can use all of these extra peelings that we don't wish to use for our food, and we can add them to our compost pile, and that creates nice, healthy soil so that then the plants that we do grow have maximum nutrition.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, these are looking pretty good. So, how do you usually test for doneness in your roasted veggies?
Often the first thing I look for is just the little caramelization on top.
So that slight browning, maybe a little bit of bubbly
Right.
going on there. So we're definitely not there yet. So we're going to put these back in, and I'm just trying to spread them out because that's the thing about roasting. Is they all need to breathe a little bit so that they can fully caramelize on all those sides. And otherwise, then we start to steam them a little bit more. So they might be squishy, but they might not have that.
And we will add our salt at the end. I'm not a real big salt avoider. Obviously, the most concerning place is when you get processed food that has a reasonable amount, but we actually need about a good amount of salt. But our salt, as people think of as relationship with high blood pressure, it's not about how much salt we're eating or sodium. It's the fact that we're not eating enough plant-based foods that contain other minerals such as magnesium and potassium, and that's what actually contributes most to high blood pressure, is that we're not eating vegetables. So again, this is another way that we help stay healthy with our cardiac blood pressure. So now that we have our beets going and our sweet potato roasted together, we did those with a little bit of garlic and onion powders, and we had a little bit of extra virgin olive oil that we were roasting them in for about 40 minutes. And your time that you're roasting them depends a lot on the size of your vegetable. And as like Kerri mentioned, we spread them apart because that really lets them caramelize well and have a good flavor. So now what I'm going to do is, this is how we can have vegetables for the whole week. I like to recommend putting all your vegetables together that you've brought home from the market or the store and keep them here. And so when you go to prepare a meal, this is the first thing that you look at. You want to make sure, am I incorporating vegetables into our meal? The other thing that can be used for, and you can see that as we go along, we'll build the spots. When it's time to make kids' lunches at home, then your carrot sticks are here, whatever. Let kids even pick what they're going to have in their lunchbox today, but it's all ready. And here, you put them in a little Ziploc bag or whatever container you use and put them in your lunch. The other thing is, when you come home for dinner, you can make your dinner selection around what vegetables you have left in here too. Nice. And don't worry if kids don't even want supper. If they filled up on vegetables as a snack, then they've already had their veggies for today. So then you're good. They don't even necessarily have to have a dinner if they've eaten your whole box of vegetables. They're full.
Yeah. I do that a lot actually myself. I've got a 1 and a 4-year-old now, and I am trying to practice what I've been preaching without kids before. So it does get a little bit harder, but I did that just last night. I cut up the carrots first, even though I didn't necessarily have a plan for them for dinner exactly, but cut those up first into sticks. And I knew my daughter was going to come around the corner momentarily and say, I need a snack. And so I was like, here they are right now, carrot sticks. And it's just such a good way to, even when they continue to see, I think sometimes kids don't even know the names of certain common vegetables these days. So even if your child isn't going to eat it necessarily, you're showing them what it is, you keep putting it out there and offering it. We start to teach them that different cooking methods taste different when it comes to veggies. And over time, their palate will expand and develop. So I love this. That's really cool. And I can see how beautiful the beet was. So it is getting on our zucchini a little bit, but that's okay. Did you want another cutting board instead?
No, I think I'm good. At actually did just a little bit. I think we'll be good. It won't bother me to eat them with a little heat on them. Anyway, so I've cut the zucchini up, which zucchini can be eaten raw. It can be put in a lunchbox. And guess what? If children say, I'm not going to eat that for lunch, well, then guess what? You already have dinner made. And so then what you can do is for dinner, you have, if this zucchini is available in the box, you can, put some roasted garlic with it and some olive oil and just, chop in little pieces like that. You can steam it, or even you can roast the zucchini as well. And remember, you can grill veggies too. So you can, cut slices and have it on skewers with whatever things that you want, or use a vegetable basket. And there are many recipes out there for even grilling. So that's an additional thing. And remember, we said fermenting too. So you can ferment zucchini sticks, and then you're increasing even further all of your microbiome diversity. So, do you mind grabbing the carrots for me? I'm going to chop the red bell pepper here. So
sure thing.
Red bell pepper is something that I'd always included in my kids' lunches. And you hear of kids getting made fun of at lunches. And one day one of my children came home and they said, I got made fun of about my lunch today. And I said, what did they make fun of it? And they said, they asked me, what was that about the bell pepper? What is that? And I said, well, that kind of is more concerning that they don't know what it is.
What it is. I know.
And so they make wonderful strips, and then see if you've already cut them for your child's lunch, and they might have taken some. You can also then cut some smaller pieces and include them in like a tossed salad when you have your dinner and make your dinner salad. And I do use some parchment paper here as I'm putting in my.
Yeah, I like that. I've never really thought to do that before or seen anyone do that.
Sometimes some vegetables like the red bell pepper have a little bit of moisture, and so it just kind of removes that so that they're not the slime factor.
Okay. So the parchment just kind of, that makes sense, versus aluminum foil is not really going to absorb the moisture. Right. Really.
Cool. And now this is a jicama. So
I'm going to zoom in for that. But
a lot of people, may not be familiar if you're not from South America or Mexico, but it actually has a lot of nutrition in it, and it has a flavor much like a sweet apple or a water chestnut. People have said it's very mild. It's not spicy or anything, but there's a lot of ways that you can use it, and I'll reference it in a little bit. It can be made into even a slaw. There are recipes for slaw mixed with instead of cabbage, but using the jicama as that. And but also it's just really delicious, and cutting into some batons. It does have a really fibrous skin on it that should be removed. And again, we'll put all these in our.
Like you said, great source of fiber, particularly one called inulin, which is one of those that the good gut bacteria love to eat, and really mild. So I'm actually going to take a poll of our viewers and see if anyone has eaten jicama before, and if so, how. But like you said, I love, even in a traditional coleslaw, you can add it, and that's just one more extra plant food you've got in there. I went in a couple different grocery stores as well here in the area, just looking, and there were multiple that had jicama. So you don't have to go to a specialty store even to find it. Some of your produce folks and employees at the stores can be some very helpful and knowledgeable people about what to do with it too. So let us know if you have tried jicama before.
Okay, so I've peeled off most of it. So then what I like to do is to So pretty firm, a little bit tough like a radish, but it's not as hard as a rutabaga.
Yeah, it does look like a smaller rutabaga.
So I'm going to turn it this way, and so I can cut little baton sticks like this. And mine turned out more. I probably could have cut it a little bit thinner the other way, but they're really good with all kinds of dips. And in a little bit, I'm going to be showing a bean dip. So, if you think about Mexican restaurants that you go to, sometimes people want to substitute for chips. You can have your own salsa bar at home and make some different salsas, again, incorporating even more vegetables, and then use those to dip in. So you don't have to have, for football games or whatever your hors d'oeuvres are, don't have to have a bunch of chips. You can have your vegetables as your way to be able to enjoy tasting your different dips.
Have you ever roasted jicama?
I have not.
I haven't either. I was just looking because I've learned this about my 1-year-old. If I cut sweet potatoes into cubes and roast them, he doesn't want to eat them. Carrots, if they're in half moons and I roast them, he doesn't want to eat them. But if I cut them into a baton so that he can pick it up with his fingers like a little French fry shape, and it's a lot easier for him to just, his grasp isn't that great yet. But for whatever reason, the shape can even make a difference. So all that to say, don't give up on your kids or your grandkids or whoever you're watching. Sometimes it's just the changing of the shape of the vegetable that can make the difference.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that pulled in another point I didn't want to forget. And that is, children are very much reactive to how you present stuff. So, for example, the age your children are, with being 4 and 2, 1,
yeah.
And if you do little things like even arranging on the plate, and obviously you're not going to give them whole things like this, but we'll try some of the beets, and you arrange them into like a face shape with anything. We all know, however you're going to present your vegetables, just do that. And they may require you to come up with something creative every time you arrange on the plate. So then you'll get to be an artist as well as cooking person. Then we have all of our veggies all washed here, and Kerri was nice enough to have all these peas nice and washed, and they're have drained and are dry. And that's another thing you can add to your vegetable. Oh, I was going to mention, so that the jicama, it does better. It has a slime factor if it's put in the refrigerator. It probably only lasts about 2 days. So if you want to increase the time that it's in your refrigerator, you can put it in a container such as this, and you can fill it with water, and that really helps it retain moisture in your refrigerator. Okay, so
actually, do you mind moving that over so I can zoom in and everyone can see kind of how you're doing that too?
So we'll do this and just fill it with water.
Yeah.
So then, and have it set inside your vegetable basket here.
Yeah.
And then we're going to put our peas, snow peas, in here too.
Where do you normally buy your jicama?
I see it everywhere I go. They even have it at Walmart.
Okay, great. There we go.
So I really use a lot of jicama. I enjoy it a lot. Okay, so next we're going to do some of the traditional things. We're going to do, everybody thinks of, when they think of raw vegetables for kids, carrots and celery. So we're going to do some of those. I'm going to cut here. And so again, in thinking about them, carrots are such a simple thing, and most children do like raw carrots. That's another thing with kids. We don't care how they eat vegetables. They don't have to be cooked. But that saying, it is good to have all of us eat both raw and cooked things, because there's different nutrients that we get from both of them, and carrots is definitely one of them. And we know that when you add a healthy fat such as extra virgin olive oil to certain things like sweet potatoes, carrots, or any of the green vegetables, that helps release their vitamin A, because vitamin A is a fat soluble vitamin.
Yeah.
And so that's actually one of the most nutrients that children are deficient in. And when I'm in practicing, I try to tell my kids in my practice that a lot of skin issues can be helped because vitamin A is so instrumental in providing us with healthy skin. Helps us hold on to water in our skin and be well hydrated. So if we're just eating, your fast food, your chips, your goldfish crackers, you're really not going to get that much.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really good point.
Okay, and so I brought these back over
Okay.
to
Yeah.
show that have all these carrots
All
cut up.
right.
So again, in the lunchbox, and guess what? If there's carrots that aren't, one of the ways that I like to do them is to say you're going to do some for dinner, and you can cut them on diagonals. I really enjoy them like this, and I like to, again, steam them and then toss them with a little extra virgin olive oil with a little thyme, which I have a lot in my garden, and a little lemon juice and or orange juice, some type of citrus, and use the peel also, just grating in it, and it really pulls out all the sweetness of the carrot too, just with regular steamed carrots, and they cook up really fast just by cutting them on the diagonal.
That's one thing when we do our cooking up confidence classes where everyone's cooking along, we do steaming. And I always like to make that point that just because we've steamed a vegetable doesn't mean we can't dress it up as well, because steamed vegetables don't always taste the best. They're not necessarily caramelizing the natural sugars the way roasting does. But sometimes I think people, I mean, I get it. I also do this. I throw the bag of frozen veggies in the microwave and it's easy, but doesn't mean you can't even add a sauce and some of those extra plants and extra herbs like the thyme to the frozen veggies. So
okay, so
right.
How are we doing with time here?
We are, so it's 1:30, so we're halfway through.
Okay, so we're enough. We can just check them here and see how they're doing.
Let's see.
And they're from here look like they're really caramelizing well, so they may be actually done. Or do you think they could benefit a little bit more? Some of them look really done.
Some of them look done. Some of them, I only did 15 minutes, so maybe I'll give them at least that 5 more minutes.
Okay.
And I don't remember if we mentioned this. We have them on 4:15 right now, and it will have been 40 minutes total that we will have roasted them.
But if you cut them in larger pieces, then you might increase either the cooking time, or you might, even if you like them caramelized, increase the temperature up to 425.
Yep. Okay, great.
So anyway, so I still have a bunch of carrots that I peeled here too. So that's fine to put them in my box as well, because like, again, I can have them for dinner in the little diagonal shape, and that'll be a vegetable for one of my dinners this week.
Look at that.
Okay.
I love it.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just
so now we're
gonna
look at cucumber. And again, I was always raised. My mom did this thing with a fork down the.
Okay. Yeah.
And I didn't do that on this, but I don't mind a little bit of the peel. But sometimes that's a little bit sweeter or less tart.
Yeah.
Or acrid, whatever you want to call. So
my mom does that too, where she peels half of the peel.
Yeah. So just part of it, and it's somewhat decorative too. And again, kids like variation. Sometimes they like little zigzag around. But I'm cutting these into little batons too. Like Kerri mentioned, kids love little things with a stick shape, and they love dipping also. So that's why, of all ages. And so if they have at least something both that they're dipping in that's healthy, and then something that they're using to dip that provides nutrition as well. So again, cucumbers are another one that's a little bit got the slimy. So I've got my paper for it as well, separating it. And so we'll do that. And then I have my celery that everybody says. And again, everybody knows about the peanut butter and celery, and that's a good thing. But just make sure when you do your peanut butter, I like to do organic peanuts. And I don't use anything like some of the name brands. I probably can't mention them, but anyway, I'm not one of the choosy mothers.
There we go. Yeah.
So I do in particular that my peanut butter does not contain any trans fats, which is like adding Crisco type product to that, and it adds corn syrup. Those are not nutrients that I want to incorporate into my diet and are not good for developing your microbiome. So just look for a minimum peanuts and salt.
There is a nice large store that everyone can probably guess that sells organic peanut butter in a 2-pack that is just peanuts and salt.
And you also can use almonds and salt, almond butter.
Yeah, absolutely. I even like pecan butter. It's naturally sweeter. If you ever make that in your nice food processor, maybe we can do a
that would all the different butters.
Yeah, all the butters. All the nut butters.
I've been looking for one like I love hazelnut, so I'd love hazelnut that's not Nutella.
Yeah, right.
And there's
I believe the first ingredient in Nutella is sugar and then hazelnuts.
Yeah, it might actually be corn syrup.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, you can fill that with this, and that's another after sports snack that's good too, because then you're combining. It's always good after you've exercised to have a little bit of protein, because after you break down your muscle through activity, it's good to replenish it then, and that helps your whole metabolism work better when you're eating that way too, not eating a carb snack after you've exercised. And so I always recommend, vegetables and just a little tad of some high protein. That's good. So here now we have our cucumber batons.
Celery.
Celery.
Yeah, I know. Lots of veggies going on.
Okay, so we'll put that in there. Okay. So then you see the radishes here, and this is what most of us are familiar with. And you can certainly use them like this. And there are other different types of radishes. So this is a daikon radish, and it's used a lot in Asian cuisine, and it's pretty much the same. And there's all kinds of little French radishes, that are a little bit longer like this, that are small, but those make fun things to have. Sometimes people cut them in a little rosette for a lunch, and you can just do one or two, like in a lunch box with your other veggies. And I was going to demonstrate here using the food processor. I guess I can take these off now because I'm done with these. Yes,
there's our veggies again.
Pictures are done. So using a food processor is another thing. In addition to your knife, you can expand the way that you use vegetables and make it a lot easier. And I'm going to start, because I will be using this for the bean dip, but I can do it all at the same time without having to wash the container in between, which if you do something like just vegetables, it really doesn't leave anything that you wouldn't want in your bean dip. It's not going to affect that. So I won't be washing it in between. But anyway, I have the slicing blade on right now, and I will put the radishes in. And then, so if you have them prepared like this, then you have them ready to toss in a tossed salad.
Ooh, that is beautiful. I'm going to zoom in so everyone can see that. Look at that. It is just.
We'll open them up, and I'll remove the blade, and you have, again.
How fast was that?
All your veggies just for your salad.
Look at that. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Radishes are actually an incredible source of nitric oxide as well. That is a vasodilator. So those of you that have joined us before might have heard me talk about that. But most of the time we think of our dark leafy greens as having a lot of the nitric oxide, but radishes are one that also do, that are not a leafy green. So I have certainly been trying to incorporate more radishes and beets. Beets are an incredible source of nitric oxide too.
And some of the research about nitric oxide has shown that, a lot of people are wanting to make smoothies, or you see parents give their
Sure.
kids those pouches.
Yeah.
And actually, the action of chewing, mixing with the
Yes.
saliva. And I actually learned about a lot of this research at a developmental conference, which was not comprised of anybody that was nutritionally
Huh.
uh, studied, I should
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
And they were just amazed at that. So they were like, everybody eat your spinach and be sure and chew it.
Yes.
Don't put it in a smoothie.
Yeah, so that, and then to your point, one of the other things that a lot of people do is they use antiseptic mouthwash. So there are bacteria in our mouths that actually help release the nitric oxide, and they help that process with the saliva. So obviously, I'm not your dentist, but in terms of nitric oxide production, we kill all of the bacteria that helps that process occur when we use the antibacterial mouthwash.
So now, while I have the food processor out, and before I do the bean dip, I was going to show also. So I put a different blade on. The one was the slicing blade that I did the radishes with. I'm going to do the shredding one because then you can produce, if you've bought a cabbage, and I think I forgot to add the cabbage to the number of vegetables. So we might even have more.
oh, we may.
So anyway, I bought one head of green cabbage and a small head of purple, and adding two of my carrots. I bought a great big bundle of carrots. I think I got them at Costco for like nothing, and they're organic, like pounds of carrots.
Mm-hmm.
But I made 2 bags of these. I already have used one here in the last 5 days at home, and here I have another one. So I have this many. So anybody who wants to use the excuse that vegetables are so expensive, it was pennies. Cabbage is
Yeah.
really inexpensive. So if you add other colors to it, and that's another thing wanted to mention, is that we want to increase the amount of colors, because every color it indicates a different group of nutrients in them. We talked
Mm-hmm.
about nitric oxide, but also colors have other what we call phytonutrients, or there's things that protect our cells, and those phytonutrients are protective against free radicals, things that can contribute to cancer. So our body needs lots of those, and they have big, long, funny names, like broccoli, for example, has sulforaphane,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have luteins and zeaxanthines, which we know are protective in macular degeneration. So
Mm-hmm.
we're learning that a lot of things that we can include in our diet help um, ameliorate or prevent different diseases.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I've shredded my carrots here, so you can see how fast that
Wow.
is. So I can make slaw. No need for me to buy a bag of coleslaw at the
Wow.
store. I can just add
Beautiful.
this to my already bag of shredded things that I already had made. But yeah, a good food processor that's quiet and efficient is very effective in helping you provide fresh vegetables for meals.
Speaking of food processors, one of the other things, especially since this is pediatric focused, I really like these handheld choppers too that don't require any electricity, and they're just pull string, so nothing but manpower, but the kids can really enjoy pulling on the string, as you can imagine. And obviously, depending on how a carrot is going to take a little more elbow grease than, say, an onion or some garlic cloves, but this is a great way to involve them in what you're doing. And they're totally protected from the blade. So as long as they're not opening the container, but obviously you as the parent or guardian can be filling it for them, and then they can do the pulling and the other fun stuff there. So
Okay, so now I'm going to be demonstrating my bean
bean
dip.
dip.
So
Okay.
if you want to
I'll
open
rinse
and
and drain
drain.
these. So
Okay.
we've got, let's see. So we've got cannellini beans. So we've got some white kidney beans there. Did you want to mention anything about your asparagus or not yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we can finish this one up, and then we can go back to that.
Right.
We'll include that in. Um, First of all, and we can use any kind of beans with bean dip. We can add, substitute anything. So if you like black beans, you can do that. I'm adding mine flavor of my bean dip to give it a kind of a Mexican flair. that I enjoy because I like chilies and those kinds of flavors. But you can definitely do an Italian one, and that's why I mixed it up a little bit and brought the cannellini. I wanted to show that, that's more of an Italian bean. So you can definitely put, rosemary or garlic in that profile in those kind of beans and make it. So one of the things, since we're trying to increase the amount of plant-based foods, nuts and seeds have a large amount of magnesium in them, and they also have those resistant starches that we had mentioned. And I'm just going to pour the water off of
Sure.
this.
Yeah.
Now I have soaked some cashews in some boiling water for just a little over a half hour. You can do them overnight if you want to. You can also, I've tried Brazil nuts, which I like too.
Oh.
Uh, I've tried with pepita seeds. They, the raw ones, work really well with hot water. They just provide a little retained crunch.
Okay.
So
good to know.
just if some people have a texture issue at first, you may not want to do that. The cashews go the smoothest.
All right.
So
You want the beans in first?
I'm going to actually puree the.
Okay. Great.
And I did something with a spatula, but I don't know what he did with it.
Oh, I'll clean it off. Yep. Or here's the spoon though.
And there's a little bit of carrot retained in here, but that's just going to add a little bit of flavor. It's nothing that I had to stop and wash and scrub out my food processor with.
Yeah.
So I want to make things easy.
Minimize the cleaning. I'm all for that too.
And so you'll see, I don't know if you want to zoom in?
Yeah.
For this.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And after I add the beans to it, it'll be more even pureed and softer. Yeah.
Okay, let me zoom in. Yeah. So it almost looks like a meal.
Yeah, mealy paste a little bit.
Okay.
And you can experiment with different seeds, but it's a good substitute. Maybe some people would use cheese in the dip, but this is just giving an extra, not just a fat, but fats that have, especially like pumpkin seeds, or if you use walnuts, they have a lot of omega-3s, which we're all trying to incorporate too. So they all are a good base for when you make a bean dip.
Pumpkin seeds have a lot of zinc as well, and zinc is one of the only antioxidant minerals. And I've been reading a lot more about that and brain health. And so zinc is, a lot of us don't have enough zinc in terms of the antioxidant capacity that it really has on our brain function. So a lot of folks with everything from autism to ADHD to anxiety, depression, bipolar, Alzheimer's, they find when they draw their blood, they're not having enough zinc either, which hyper targets a lot of our neural pathways and prevents the inflammation there. So pumpkin seeds, great source of zinc.
Okay.
All right. So now it's getting even thicker.
And a little bit creamier.
A little creamier, sure.
If you experiment with a variety of beans, you'll find different ones that you like not only flavor profile, although most of them are fairly mild, but you might like the consistency, or your child might. Sometimes I think of all we can do is hummus, but I've even made what you call hummus or bean dip with black-eyed peas. They make wonderful.
Yeah.
And even for people that don't specifically like black-eyed peas. They're really good.
Which is me.
Just in a puree. So this is a little bit of extra virgin olive oil that I had already peeled some fresh garlic to, because that adds a wonderful way. And the olive oil actually helps pull out the garlic flavor and help distribute it into your.
I really liked that you did that. So Wendy she peeled her garlic, poured the olive oil on top, and it's been sitting there for about the last 30 minutes or so. And I was like, that's a great idea, because I could see what she was doing there, but never really thought about doing that myself.
Okay. And I think we didn't measure all these out, but We can do,
We'll eyeball.
yeah, we're good with that. So this one is a little bit of what's called fajita seasoning, and it does have a little bit of salt in this one. And it just has cumin and a variety of flavors that go with my Mexican that I wanted to do. And oh, I had brought this wrong one. I had refilled it, so I can't use this one.
Oh,
It
is there
has-
something
it
else
has-
you need?
It has some caraway seeds in it. I had
Oh my gosh.
repurposed my thing without repurposed my
see.
jar without
I
relabeling.
have some regular chili powder or
Yes.
smoked paprika.
I would love some chili powder.
Chili powder. There
Yeah.
you go. And that one,
But-
it does have a little kick to it. So
Yeah.
I have cumin too, unless
And if
specific-
you have a little cayenne, I actually like that. And it goes a long way in this because of the olive oil and everything. I don't know if you happen to have a red pepper.
thought
You have the red pepper
I do
flakes.
have red pepper flakes,
Yeah.
and I've got this. This is actually one of the things that we used for this has ginger, but for fermentation, he used this
Oh, okay.
actually in his kimchi. So togarashi seasoning, which is kind of cool.
Well, anyway, I recommend some type of red pepper. And then I'm going to use a can of green chilies.
Chilies.
I don't know if you need to zoom in.
Yum. Yeah, I'll zoom
Okay.
in a second. Want to
And then-
check it out myself. All right. There we go. So we've got our seasonings.
And that I'm using with the liquid too, because it will actually, if you see, you can pour the liquid off if you want, but if my dip was a little bit thick, so I know that adding this little bit of liquid will, make it the consistency that I want.
The raw garlic is great too because we are actually going to be able to get more of the phytonutrients from the raw garlic. Sometimes when we saute it, it does destroy some of the phytonutrients. So,
Okay, and then I'm just gonna pour my dip into here in a bowl.
all right.
Okay,
Not quite.
and thank you for doing my spatula.
Yeah. Well,
And
no,
it
every
just-
last drop.
It just smells so good.
I need to come smell.
The garlic and spices can flavor up any kind of bean dip. And like I said, it doesn't matter what type that you use.
That aside that way.
So talking again about how to get kids to eat, we mentioned arranging it in interesting presentation like a face. Kids are always drawn to that. The other thing is the baton shape. And Kerri mentioned about how her son enjoys, that shape and that motivates him to eat. Some of the things you have to look at each age is when they have control over things. So they will end up doing them. So other things that help kids eat is I have a whole list that it's a work in progress, but I have a number of books. So at the library that kids can read about food, and you can't imagine how many
I ate a beet. It was very good.
How fun it is to read about vegetables. So your bedtime story, you can talk about them and talk about what they do in your body to produce health. And some of them are humorous. So there's all different approaches. So they're hearing about it. Having them be involved, kind of like Kerri was showing with the little, what do you call this?
A pull string chopper is what
Okay.
I've landed on. So I think you can't go wrong with what you call it.
So
but-
any way you can help kids get involved.
Yeah.
They're early and young and stirring. And in fact, often they want to be involved and
Right.
people shoo them out of the kitchen, which
Yeah.
you don't want to. And I have found
Yeah.
a number of people who don't cook, but I've found resources in maybe a family member that grows a garden.
Yeah.
So if you have kids that they've grown something, believe me, they're going to want to participate
Yep.
in eating it too.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so now we have our bean dip.
All right. Look
And
at that. The texture looks awesome.
But again, experiment with other nuts or seeds. I think that
Try this
at schools and stuff, they're not allowed to have nuts.
Right.
but not
Oh
seeds.
my gosh.
Seeds are not prohibited. I don't know anybody that has
This is delicious,
a
especially with the
reaction.
jicama. That was where I went. You've motivated me to go get some jicama this week for sure and see what my kids think, because I don't know that they've had that. We did a lot of I definitely did the 101 foods before one with both of my kids to just try and get them. It's a great way to even challenge yourself to try new foods and or circle back with something you may not have eaten in a while. So jicama is that for me. I've always liked it. I don't know why I haven't bought it recently. So I'm gonna do that. This is beautiful. Um, Anything else that you want to mention? And then I'm thinking we can kind of assemble everything right here so everyone can get a sense of how much you just prepared in under an hour, really. And like you said, we can take bits and pieces. Is there anything else you wanted to cut
Right.
up?
Right. I am going to point out the asparagus. So the
Okay.
asparagus was already blanched, and by blanched, what I did for this one is I did cut the ends off about an inch,
Mm-hmm.
and then I do like the French do and peel the last little bit, because
Okay.
I noticed sometimes there's a bite there that might be too fibrous that people
Sure.
don't want to engage with.
Yeah.
But then you can do a skillet and fill it with an inch of water and get it rapidly boiling and drop it in for 3 minutes. And then
Oh.
it's just blanched. So it's basically not boiled to death, and it's good for putting in our vegetable basket. Again, kids, you can cut them in half and they can have batons of those for their lunch as well. And then the other thing is broccoli. Some kids really love to eat broccoli when it's raw. And so if you cut some of the spears off, you can leave a little handle on it for them, and then they can eat it, and they want to dip it, whatever they like to dip it in. And then also, if not, and
Look
they
at
leave it
that.
in your vegetable box here, then you have it all ready for supper, and you can trim it
Show
off.
everybody this.
And any of the
Yeah, sorry. No, I was too busy
okay,
looking. I like that handle a lot. I haven't done that, so maybe that will, like you said, encourage my son to eat that more. Cool.
and then even the ends, there's people, even sometimes I feel like they're too fibrous. See, some people
Mm-hmm.
peel them, but any of the vegetables that is still has a good bit of the nutrition in it, but it's just maybe something that you're not going to pick up and eat, or necessarily even steam. What you can always do is put it in a Ziploc bag and label it veggies. And so if you make vegetable broth,
Mm-hmm.
you've already prepared for that too, so
Yeah.
that you'll have some fresh vegetable broth
Yeah.
fillings. You grab it just out of your freezer and
Yeah.
throw it in there. So
Yes.
you're not really wasting anything. So it can be
Yes.
very economical. So we've been able to provide a large amount of
Mm-hmm.
vegetables at a reasonable cost,
Mm-hmm.
and we've used very little time, and there's not a lot of effort or difficulty in the preparation. So we've shown here how to remove some of the barriers that people face when they
Mm-hmm.
think about cooking. Like, I don't know about that. I don't think I've ever cooked that before.
Yeah.
So it's very easy. Not everything in food preparation involves cooking.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Um, if anyone has any questions for Wendy, please go ahead and throw that in there. We will get the recipe to you when we receive the recording back here. So right now we're just going to clear this station a little bit so that I can zoom in and show you everything that we just did. And
Here, I'll put this.
okay.
Thing.
Thank you. Everything Wendy just did, because I only did some snacking and some observing. But we've got a lot of good stuff going on here. There's that. Great. So we've got raw, we've got blanched. I love that idea. And I was almost, as you were saying that, I was thinking, I wonder if we could also do, you know what? I might just remove the cutting board.
It.
How about
Here,
that?
I'll put it.
There we go.
Take it apart.
Thank you. Yeah, there we go. We've got roasted. We've got easy to stir fry snow peas. We've got shredded. We've got batons. We've got circles. We've got what do you call the broccoli? Stalks. We've got cubes. We've got everything. So great. Any last other tips or things that you want to add, Wendy, other than don't give up? That would be, I think, the thing that I want to add is don't give up. This is a process. Palates change, taste buds change. We have to show our kids that vegetables are valuable and a really important part of their dietary pattern for life. I was just telling someone downstairs that I walked into our the woman that watches my son, and he was snacking on a type of melon that she didn't even know what the name was, but a neighbor from another country had given to her, and it was wonderful. It had the texture of almost a watermelon. It wasn't quite as, or almost like the jicama. It wasn't quite as watery as the watermelon and grainy as the watermelon, but it was halfway there. But it had the color of a cantaloupe, so it was orangish, and then it tasted like a honeydew. So it was clearly a melon of some type.
Mhm.
So if anyone knows what that could be, let me know, because then I brought my daughter to pick them up, and there they were, both standing there eating the rest of this poor woman's fruit. But I had no idea what it was, and we all did. It was it was delicious. So you never know. We're never too old to try a new fruit or vegetable either, but um
And kids are influenced by their friends too. I know
yeah,
that,
that's a good
that
point.
growing up, my kids had a much younger child who followed them around, and he
Yeah.
looked up to him. He wanted to come eat supper, and we were having Indian food. And he went home. I told him he had to ask his mom. So she called and she said, he can eat supper with you, but he's not going to eat that. He doesn't eat anything, and especially if it's spicy. He sat there and he ate the whole
The whole
curry and
bowl.
everything that we did just because the big boys were doing it and
Right.
loved it and went home and told all his family about it. So
That's awesome. Yeah, peer pressure can work to our advantage with kids, I think. And we talked about this too, oh, well, that's my plate. That's my adult plate. And I mean, we could probably talk for a whole hour about the fact that there is no kid food versus adult food. There's a safe way to prepare food depending on the age of your child. There's allergens that we want to be mindful of, but otherwise, food is for everybody of all ages. And there should not be these kids menus that have food that really isn't nourishing their bodies. And we've put that category in them, but you hear stories every day of kids eating sushi rolls, of them
uh-huh,
trying mussels, of so let them try it.
uh-huh.
That is kid food too. So um those are my last thoughts about this. And all I can say is it's a journey, and I'm a parent. I struggle with it. Wendy's been a mom for years. She knows what that's like too. So
So
zoom in here.
So in addition to all of the recipes, I will also give the little bibliography, and I hope to continue to add to it because I think it's good for people to actually talk and have conversations about vegetables too,
Yeah.
or plant-based foods, because then kids recognize it and then it becomes part of them when they do that too.
Yeah. Well, this is a beautiful spread. So thank you, Wendy, so much for your time and your prep in all of this. It doesn't appear that we have any questions. So with that, everyone, we will be in touch with, like I said, the recipe, the recording, the bibliography. Keep reading, keep learning about your veggies. And thank you for your time, Wendy.